Hello, I'm Brian Sullivan, Chairman of the Property Insurance Report online conference and editor of Property Insurance Report. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, what are a million pictures worth? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Insurance companies have been taking photographs of claims of autos and homes for many, many years and storing them either in their own home or sometimes in an outside database, but not a whole lot has been done with them, and certainly not what might be done if this new tool gets a full use by the industry. Martins of Verisk is going to come talk to us about a new database that will consolidate photographs, analyze them, scrub them, check them for fraud, and then put them to greater use than they've ever been before. It's a fascinating new tool and an exciting one that I think will be coming to the market in the next year or two. Stick around, we'll have some questions at the end. Enjoy.
Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate the opportunity to participate virtually this year in your PIR conference. Consider this. Before COVID-19, carriers primarily used photo-based estimates for simple low-value claims that they would fast-track and quickly pay under a certain dollar threshold. But that was before COVID-19 upended claims operations and accelerated remote claims estimating. When stay-at-home orders swept across the country in March, insurers were forced to quickly pivot to remote inspections to prevent the potential spread of the virus. In general, the industry made an amazing fast leap, and a very successful one, transitioning to remote claims inspections at a record pace. By mid-Q2 2020, more than 90% of simple consumer claims at some of the largest insurers were adjusted virtually. Now, insurers are using the same process for larger value losses. And again, COVID has led to this change in process. And the cost for fraudulent payouts can quickly add up. We don't expect this trend to regress. The benefits are just too valuable. Digital photo estimates save time and reduce expenses of on-site inspections to insurers. Insurers can handle more claims in a shorter period of time, and customer satisfaction has been shown to increase. But these benefits also come with risks, and the greatest risk is fraud. It's estimated that 1 in 10 claims contain some element of fraud, waste, or abuse. According to the Coalition Against Insurance Fraud and their survey, 2/3 of insurers say fraud has risen in the past 3 years, and each year it's becoming more costly. With growth of photo-based estimates, particularly during the pandemic, you can be sure fraudsters are looking to exploit gaps in carriers' claims processes, especially since the payouts of these remote claims can take place faster, they're easier, and are increasingly more lucrative. So let's talk about digital fraud. Digital fraud can come in a variety of forms and many different file types. For example, fake or altered photos, altered receipts, stolen or synthetic identities, the reusing of images over and over again, and certainly organized fraud and internal fraud from within your organizations. It's not difficult for someone to submit a fake loss image when filing a claim. And the fact is that most insurers aren't equipped to detect questionable photos that have been altered or reused. This makes carriers more susceptible to fraud. Imagine this. A fraudster knows that an insurer has transitioned primarily to photo-based estimates for property claims handling. And looking for an easy, quick way to get a payout, they search the internet for roof damage and download a photo of a hail-damaged roof and submit that image with a claim stating that their roof was damaged in a recent storm. The photo appears legitimate to the adjuster. Plus, they don't have the time or means for a manual internet search to see if the photo is a duplicate. So they fast-track the claim and send the fraudster a hefty check for what appears to be a legitimate loss, but is really illegitimate. Here's another example. Let's say a claimant's fence was damaged last year and they received a settlement through a photo-based claims process. They switch carriers and then submit the same photo to their new carrier, hoping that the two carriers don't talk and don't share information. Since the current carrier doesn't have access to prior loss photos, they believe it is new damage and pay the fraudulent claim. These are just a couple of schemes that fraudsters are using to exploit gaps in insurers' photo estimating processes. And that doesn't even include more sophisticated tactics like pixel manipulation that anyone with photo editing software can easily pull off. There are three primary gaps in photo-based estimates that have the potential to increase insurers' fraud exposure. Carriers don't have a way to identify photos used in prior losses without picking up the phone and calling that insurer. Claim handlers don't have time nor the resources to detect suspicious photos in their files. And the increasing amount of digital loss images makes it difficult to identify suspicious photos at scale. First, you need a massive amount of data that includes prior loss images from across the P&C industry, not just one carrier's historical claims. You also need advanced analytics that can quickly identify suspicious images based on various attributes. And lastly, you need the technology that not only analyzes images quickly, but also seamlessly integrates with your claims workflow so it doesn't slow down your claim handling process. I'm happy to report that many insurers are already starting to address the fraud issue in digital claims through a new digital media contributory database. The database is an enhancement and extension of the ISO ClaimSearch All Claims database. It allows insurers to easily access prior loss images that were reported as part of a claim. It includes image forensics technology that searches the internet for photos that match files submitted with a claim and analyzes image metadata, such as the date, time, and location of the image to determine if the image and the data behind it corresponds with the claim that's being reported to you. It automatically analyzes images from Xactware's database as well that are being stored by insurers as they process property claims. The database also provides alerts for suspicious images and helps reduce risk in photo estimates. Claim handlers are immediately alerted through ClaimSearch to any irregularities around an image. So here are some examples of fraud that this database has helped identify. In one case, the customer submitted a photo of fence damage with the date of loss of September 2018 and the loss location of West Palm Beach, Florida. Our image forensics analyzed the image in real time and the metadata behind it and discovered that the photo was actually taken in July of 2015 in Lake Placid, Florida. That's a difference of 3 years and 100 miles. In this example, A roof damage claim was submitted with this photo in August 2017, and the insurer unfortunately paid $8,600 in damages. Our image forensics discovered that this photo was taken off the internet and appeared on 3 different websites. It was uploaded in 2010 and 2015, years before the reported date of loss. They fell prey to digital fraud. But it's not just consumer fraud you have to be on the lookout for. Sometimes it can be an independent adjuster or a staff adjuster perpetuating fraud, waste, or abuse, unfortunately. In this case, a staff adjuster submitted 170 duplicate images over a 2-year period in support of an estimate that they had written. More than 30% of the adjuster's estimates contained this same photo. This behavior had real costs for the insurer, over $1 million in estimated claims value impact, and a 16% increase in claims severity as a result of this one adjuster's behavior. As the volume of customer and third-party photos increases, so will the risk of these types of fraud schemes. That's why it's important for insurers to establish a proper defense now to mitigate the emerging risk of digital fraud. Currently, we have more than 90 insurers who are contributing loss images to the ISO Claim Search database, and they're getting alerts on suspicious images in their claims. In the future, the database will automatically detect duplicate images that are submitted and identify photos that have been manipulated by photo editing software such as Photoshop. This same forensic technology is being applied to all lines of business, including the auto line, not only helping detect fraudulent images, but also providing automatic estimates in virtual inspections of auto glass damage and vehicle damage, as an example. The industry has been thrust into a new era of claims innovation due to the global pandemic. These innovations are helping accelerate automated claims processes and transforming customer experiences. But it's critical that anti-fraud innovation keeps pace with claims automation. If not, any gains in efficiency will be negated by increasing fraud leakage. Well, thanks to new advances in image forensics technology, we believe at Verisk that we can help solve for this problem and help insurers solve for it in a highly automated way. Everyone already knows more than 90% of the property and casualty insurance industry relies on Verisk to coordinate the management of the industry's largest claims consortium. It's over 1.5 billion claims. You already use this to cross-reference your claims for fraud, among other things. We've now added the ability for you to also submit the images during the same feed. This helps you get in front of digital image fraud detection. And here's the best part. It comes at no cost to you. As part of your ISO Claim Search membership, we now have a new contributory database that allows insurers to contribute the photos in support of their claims to the database. And in a highly automated way, we will then look across all those photos and alert claim handlers in real time to image forensic alerts. Remember this list of issues around digital images? Fake or altered photos, altered receipts, stolen or synthetic identities, the reusing of images over and over again by customers or even from employees taking shortcuts that unfortunately feed back into the system of allowing fraudsters to double-dip claims across carriers that don't contribute to a centralized cross-carrier database of images. We have now enabled you to simply include images during your normal feeds in the consortium. The industry needs to come together just as it did back in 1970 to share information. And we view the sharing of digital photos in support of a claim an extension of that. And with that cooperation, we're confident that the industry will stay ahead of these bad guys who are constantly looking to stay ahead of insurers and take one thing for granted, that insurers don't necessarily talk to each other. At ISO, the Digital Media Sharing Initiative has already brought together over 90 insurers, with names like Farmers and CNA leading the charge and seeing the value of sharing their photos so they can get off those claims where there may be pre-existing damage or altered damage photos as a result of organized activity. And we hope you'll follow their lead and also consider joining this initiative, which comes at no cost to all ISO ClaimSearch subscribers.
Thank you, Carlos. That was fantastic, and brings me a question. I mean, how in the world did you think this up? I mean, what was the genesis of this idea?
Well, great question, Brian. So actually, it was feedback from our customers. We have a number of advisory group meetings that we host each year, and we were hearing about the frustrations that the SIU community was having getting photos from each other in support of an accident. And we kind of thought we could help solve for that.
So then what about privacy issues? I guess most of these photos are of inanimate objects, but there are privacy issues around everything, especially storing photos that have been submitted by customers and then sharing them with other carriers.
You know, there were, Brian, there were a lot of privacy concerns. That was the number one thing we heard from our advisory council. So what we did was form a working group made up of several large insurers, and we did our research on it. We also sought the legal opinion of an outside counsel firm to reassure us that this was nothing more than an extension of the ISO ClaimSearch database. And as long as we protected the information and only shared it with individuals authorized to use it to help resolve a claim, that we would be on solid footing.
So it's not all that different than other claims data. You know, I've filed a claim, there's information about my home, there's information about the damage, there's information about what was paid. All of that is in the claim file, and sure, carriers have traditionally shared there. So this is sort of just another data element, like another field in the file.
Yeah, exactly, Brian. It's just basically an extension of that. And the reality is that insurers have been sharing photos for decades, right, in support of the subrogation process and investigations. Yep. And all we're really doing is help automate that and make it more efficient.
So you talked a lot about the technology and about how you go about comparing photos and looking for sources. Is that something you outsource or something you do in-house?
It is. It is a science in and of itself. And we do the image forensics all in-house. We have a large group of very talented individuals that are passionate about doing image forensics. We also engage with a number of academic institutions to help problem solve on certain image forensics that are really complex and really hard to solve for. And an example of that is pixel manipulation. It's a hard problem to solve for, but with the right scientists focused on it, we feel really good about the approach we're taking.
You know, what little I have done in Photoshop, I've worked with it not, a lot. I haven't tried to cheat people, but I know there's a lot of tools in there to simply hide that it's being Photoshopped. I know the average person doesn't care, but masking changes is part of what they do. That's what crooks do.
It is, but what we have found is that all of those changes leave small little digital footprints. And when you find those digital footprints that the bad guys didn't realize they were leaving behind, you then can trigger that forensic to kick in and alert claim handlers.
And these are not state actors, if you would. They're crooks. And although they're pretty sophisticated, it's not like they have CIA-level encryption tools. They're working in Photoshop. I suppose if someone wants to raise their game so they can steal $100,000, they could find the tools. But it probably doesn't raise itself to that level.
They will. And really what the bad guys are counting on, Brian, is that insurance companies aren't sharing this information and don't have sophisticated image forensics kicking in to try to detect these. That's really what they're counting on.
I mentioned earlier that it wasn't that hard to share these things because they're photos, but what about video? There's an awful lot of video being captured now, especially in the claims process. People are, being asked to take a video of their kitchen instead of a photograph in some applications. Is that going to fit into this process as well?
Eventually it will, Brian. It's just another natural extension of the capability. A video can tell you a lot. A video and the voice reflection in the video Just in terms of your eye movement in a video can help tell a lot. And certainly that's in our future planning. But currently, we're really focused on the digital images first, and then certainly down the road, the videos will be the next thing to go target.
Talk to me a little bit about the time frame here. How much of the early going is going to be property versus auto?
Great question, Brian. So we're actually starting off with property claims, and the reason for that is that we have access to the Xactware photos that are used by many large insurers within Verisk. Xactware is a Verisk company. So with a simple authorization, we can bring in those photos in an automated way, label them, and have them available for sharing for all of those companies that authorize that. So it became a logical place to start because there would be no IT requirement on a contributor's side to render up any resources to help send us the photos.
So I would imagine that auto has far more complexity because there isn't a centralized photo repository like Xactware has a large percentage of the homes already, but there's no one, I'm thinking hard, there's no one who has all the auto photos in one place.
No, there aren't, Brian, but there are three major players out there. We have existing relationships with all three. In fact, they are sending their data to ClaimSearch every day on behalf of insurers. So at the appropriate time and with the appropriate sponsorship from the industry, we would like to approach those three estimatics companies and have them start sending in the photos on behalf of their insurers. For those insurers that aren't comfortable doing that or don't want to wait, we have an API structure built that will allow us for an insurer to send their photos directly to us on the same payload that they send their claims to us today. So we can take those photos in any way they would like.
Another question as it relates to the existence of a centralized, scrubbed, examined database is you've aimed it at claims to begin with, but I would have to imagine there's some additional utility at underwriting at some point down the road. In addition, to all the data I might have on a house, I might have then photos of what it looked like inside 2 or 5 years ago or a claim. Has there been discussion of using this in underwriting as well?
So there has been, Brian, and that becomes a bit of a slippery slope. So the photos in a claim setting operate under the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, and there is a clear prohibition against using any information for underwriting or rate-making purposes. However, we have developed a new approach on that where with the proper authorization, we can grab a copy of that photo and make it available for underwriting use cases. But it has to be authorized, and the use case has to align with the authorization.
And the authorization is by the consumer, correct?
So in this instance, it would be by the insurer, but it has to benefit the consumer somehow. So that's how we'll handle that.
So this raises the question, of course, of other regulatory issues. What others have you had to consider as you built out this tool? And did you have to sort of go to the NAIC and walk them through this?
One of the things we did here and we had to consider was, again, going back to the privacy theme, whether or not we needed to blur out, for example, license plates that were captured in an image, or an unintended person walking through a room when an image is captured, or maybe someone in a photo on a table. And we listened to that feedback, and we have developed blurring algorithms to blur out those images. But we also heard back, Brian, interesting enough, the SIU community felt that those license plates should not be blurred out because they felt that it was really important to their investigations to know the license plate on that vehicle. So what we've done is we've created a toggle feature where, based on persona, an SIU investigator could see the unblurred photo, but a normal claims handler would not. And that will be set by company. So each company will decide that.
What I like about this idea is someone's going to be mad at me for saying this, but it's a relatively simple idea. Everyone is already exchanging photos. We're just making better use of them. But as you talk about it, although the idea might be simple in concept, I see layers of complexity building on this. How long ago did you start on this project?
So we're actually about 2.5 years into it. And it started off with having conversations with our advisory groups. If we built it, would it be helpful? And we heard very strong signals back, absolutely. We did all our legwork, our regulatory review work, and then we built the solution. And then the hardest part starts, right? How do you convince insurers to start sharing their photos?
Well, changing workflows is probably the single hardest thing to do in insurance, especially in claims. I can't count how many companies, not insurance, how many vendors have come up with some idea to improve the claims workflow, and they're certain that it's going to work. And then when they show it to the companies, they're like, lots of training, lots of costs, and the fears of things going wrong. Companies are appropriately concerned about getting claims wrong. If you get underwriting wrong, you charge a few people the wrong price, that's a bummer. But if you get claims wrong, you get a huge class action lawsuit, it's a disaster. So I think people are very thoughtful, and it's going to take a long time to talk to some people into doing things like this.
How it really started to resonate with our customers is I was actually in a meeting and I showed them this device and I said, how cool would it be if one of your adjusters, while they were on a roof inspecting a hail damage, could see the photos of that same roof on a hail claim that was reported to another insurer last year? Would that be helpful? And it speaks to the power of this device now. And with ClaimSearch as a mobile application, adjusters can now arm themselves with that intelligence when it makes sense.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of that, but it's a great concept. You're up on the roof, you say, that's clearly damage, and it was there a year ago or 2 years ago. It changes the entire process. I have to figure, we're not there yet though, right?
No, that exists today. We have the ability to render those photos in a mobile setting.
Okay, that's terrific. Well, talk to me where you are in the process right now in terms of implementation. How many companies are on? How do you expect this to roll out?
Yeah, so we've done several aggressive campaigns to basically advertise that the service is available to all ISO ClaimSearch subscribers at no additional cost. There is an authorization that is needed, and we're up to, I believe as of yesterday, we signed up another one. We're up to about 93 insurers, Brian.
And I would imagine they're in various stages of rolling this out.
Yeah, I mean, we try to help and offer best practices as best we can, but you kind of hit it on the head there. It comes down to their workflow. They need to do some work in terms of instructing their claim handlers on when they should look to see if a photo is available, and we do provide a visual cue, a little picture of a camera next to a claim in ClaimSearch that says, hey, we have photos available of this prior loss. And then from there, the carrier's procedures need to kick in where, if something looks suspicious, maybe you should take a few minutes before you pay the claim and take a look at those prior photos on that prior claim.
So let me step you away from fraud for a few minutes and talk a little bit about other applications of intelligent analysis of photos. I have to think, if you have millions, and you probably do, millions of pictures of kitchen fires, and you scrub them and you clean them and you organize them and they're in one central place. And now I can apply artificial intelligence to it where I can say, this kitchen fire cost this much, this kitchen fire cost that much. And eventually, kitchen fires may not be the best example, but eventually an AI can look at a photograph, as they do in auto, and begin to assess a value to a claim just from that photograph, or at least get an estimate and get started. Is that something, am I pie in the sky here, or do you think this is a possibility?
No, it's not pie in the sky, Brian. It's actually happening today. And where one of the companies working on that, there are many companies working on that whole vision of using computer vision, machine learning, AI to solve questions just like that. Hey, what am I looking at here? Is it a chair? If it's a chair, how much does a chair cost? Or if it's a fire, is this a severe fire? Or if this is damage to the front bumper, how severe is the damage? Is the damage enough to consider the vehicle total loss? These are all questions that we believe that can be answered through computer vision and the appropriate investment in technology. And many are doing it.
And what's exciting to me here is that, training an AI requires a tremendous amount of data. And when you get done with this, I mean, you already have a lot of photos, obviously, from the Xactware and the ClaimSearch database, but taking them and scrubbing them and getting them ready, this could be a gigantic resource for training AI. It sure seems like that.
I truly hope that's the case, and that's our hope. And with that data, our hope is to make the best possible algorithms that will reduce the least amount of false positives on any type of analytic that we put out, because it does require a lot of data to do that, so you can train your algorithms, and we certainly hope that that's the case.
I want to circle you back to auto for a minute and try and get a bigger than a bread box time frame on when that might happen.
Yeah, so Brian, we're ready right now. We're ready right now to do it. What we need is an insurer or two to basically sponsor that conversation with one of the three major estimatics companies. We've called on them, we've knocked on the door, but really what they're looking for is a signal from one of their customers, basically instructing them to send their photos to ISO. And we will work directly with all three to do that. But again, we're happy to also work directly with insurers who have all their photos sitting in digital image repositories. A lot of insurers have document management systems that include copies of those images. We can easily work with companies directly to grab those images that way too.
Carlos, I can't thank you enough for all the hard work you put into the presentation and for taking the time to talk with me today. Thank you for working so hard to create this database, which I think is going to be fantastic. And I'll just pray that you and your family and all your coworkers stay safe. We just have to hang in there just a little bit longer, and I think we might all eventually be set free. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Brian, and my pleasure to be here with you.